So, right, just to introduce myself, my name's Sunita Gudu. I've been in fundraising for 21 years. I was a legacy manager in-house for over a decade. And I've worked with every cause, I think, imaginable: environmental, humanitarian, lots of hospices. I've worked with 4 children's hospices, a number of adult hospices. And I've been specialising in legacies for the last 18 years. So I started as a community fundraiser 21 years ago, did corporate fundraising, event fundraising, and then came across legacies, and I fell in love. And so it has been my passion for the last 18 years. I established my own legacy consultancy called Persuasion back in 2019. And what was super interesting when I was a manager in-house is that I saw a high number of legacy pledges come from volunteers and lottery supporters. So this has really been my drive to really help charities to understand these two audiences that often get overlooked when it comes to legacies. Okay. Right, so what are we going to cover off today? We're going to understand why lottery players are strong legacy prospects. Yeah, there might be some mystery around why that is the case. Going to give you some practical ways to introduce legacy messaging. And we're going to look at ways how to include a legacy ask. Yeah, some of this might surprise you. And examples of what a successful kind of supporter journey looks like. I know it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but until somebody comes up with something else, we'll continue to quote supporter journeys. And you're going to have a 90-day action plan. How exciting is that? Okay, so we're going to do a quick poll, which Trudy has very beautifully crafted in the background for me. And the poll is, how often do your lottery players currently hear about gifts and wills? There's multiple choice. Is it never, rarely, occasionally, frequently, or I don't know?
Just bear with me.
Sure. And just a note there to say that many hospices have thousands of lottery players, but very few have a structured legacy journey. So please don't be concerned that your lottery players are not seeing any legacy messages. It's just really useful to know where people are at.
So the poll should be up on your screen.
Okay, I can't
just
see anything.
Check. Vicky, can you see it?
Yeah, it's fine. It's working.
Brilliant, thank you.
I think there's only been 3 responses though.
Yeah, we'll give you a minute or so if you can just.
Oh yeah, there's 19 responses out of 23 so far, so it's definitely working. Thank you. Sunita, do you want me to feedback the results from the poll?
Yes, please, because I can't see. Yeah.
So still responses coming through. We're up to 20.
Okay.
But the biggest response has been for rarely at 45%, and then occasionally at 35%, frequently at 10%, and then never and I don't know both share 5%. So the majority are definitely at rarely.
So is anybody at I don't know?
I'm going to guess from the percentage split, it may only be 1 or 2 people.
Oh, I see. There is a percentage. Sorry, I just didn't hear that.
Sorry, yeah, 5% are at I don't know. So I think that's only 5%. 1 person.
Oh, okay, that's fine. No worries at all. Okay, thank you for that. Shall we close the poll and hopefully I'll be able to see you again?
Yeah, can you see us now?
No.
No.
What I
There we go, that should be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, can see you back.
Okay, I still can't see you. Right. Let me. Let's try again. Right. Yay, we're back.
Presentation up there. Brilliant.
There we go. Okay. Right. So why lottery players matter in terms of legacy giving? So it might obviously be obvious. They're actually regular givers when we think about it. If they're playing the lottery on a regular basis, they're regular givers. Yeah. So that they're just doing it under a product. They've got loyalty because they're in it, aren't they, to win something. So they're going to hang around for a while, but they are loyal to your organization as well. We do find that with lottery players. It's not as if they're supporting 10 different charities with lottery players. They're loyal to your organization. There's a huge trust there because they're trusting that they'll play into this lottery and that you'll actually hand over the winnings. And so there is that element of, okay, you're a charity, so I trust you in that regard, but I'm going to keep investing into this. And there is a kind of unspoken relationship that's built these people over time. And what's super interesting is that they are the prime legacy demographic. So they're more likely to be female, they're more likely to be older, and they're likely to be modest in terms of the income that they have. There is a preconception that legacies come from very rich people, but actually they just come from ordinary people like you and I, older people who want to support a charity. Yeah. And these four things are actually the same characteristics I would look for when I'm looking at a charity's database and going, who is more likely to leave a legacy to this organization? Yeah. So I'm looking at supporters, how long have they been giving, over what period of time, what does that loyalty look like? Do they trust the organization? And what are their demographics in terms of age, gender? Yeah. So as we know, lottery players are not just prize players now. Many of them are probably going to be the most loyal supporters your charity has got. Yeah. They feel connected to the cause because they're receiving those messages from you. They're getting your newsletters, and they're most likely have got their own bespoke program as well. And they're giving over a number of years to make that difference locally. Now, somebody once asked me, or actually several times, why do lottery players like support my particular charity? And from research that I've done, whether that's surveys or telephone, what we find is that it's local. So they have that affinity with you. You're their local hospice. They most likely probably go into your hospice shops. And also, there's this thing of a relationship that may not necessarily be recorded. So they might have a neighbor, for example, that's been helped by the hospice, or they know of a child that was helped by the hospice. So even though on the face of it, they come across as people who are just in it to win it, actually, there's something really deeper and more emotional going on for them. And what's really super interesting is that these people could support any organization because so many organizations have the lottery now. They could be doing the national lottery. They don't even have to support a charity, do they? So this is how we know that the relationship exists, because when you think about it, when that person receives something from your organization, they're going to see the word hospice. Yeah. And that isn't something that somebody wants to see on a regular basis, right? Whether it's an adult hospice or a children's hospice. I mean, I have friends and family who say to me, oh, how can you work with organizations in that way and you visit services? So because it's hugely important. And I think that is the same for supporters, in that when they see the word hospice, the word cancer in that, they have an emotional connection, which is how they're able to give that support. Any questions so far? pop them in the chat or raise your hand. Trudy, if you could let me know if there's anybody.
Nothing as yet.
Nothing as
Everybody
yet.
understands
Okay.
everything.
It's
so
all
far.
clear.
We're
Right.
doing well.
We're doing well. Okay. Right. So your lottery program already creates these things. Yeah. It creates this habitual giving, as we've talked about, this regular giving. Yeah. It's already creating long-term relationships. It's creating regular engagement, because I know with a lottery program, you have to keep people constantly engaged. You don't want just them to buy one ticket. You want them to buy a number of tickets, a number of lines, or however that works. And then you're always trying to increase that giving. As we know, as individuals, and when we look at supporters, nobody gives first, second, third, or even 10th gift to capacity. So there's always potential to give more. Yeah. Otherwise, regular program upgrade programs wouldn't work. So we do know it's effective. And often with these supporters, they have an identity. So they will say, "Oh, I play your lottery." Yeah. They don't say, "Oh, I support your charity." They'll say, "I support your lottery." Yeah. I hear that so much on telephone campaigns. So I already give to your lottery. Yeah. So they don't see themselves as regular givers. They are. Yeah. And often when we're ringing them, they'll say, "Have I won?" So yeah, the disappointment in them. They hear that. So what's super interesting about lottery players, again, is that very few fundraising products achieve all these four things. And this is the foundation of legacy prospects, of legacy giving. Yeah. Right. Oh, this is super exciting. If you've got your phone, you might want to grab this QR code. But as this is being recorded anyway, so you can always watch it back, and I'm happy to share the slides. So Russell James, who is the guru in legacy research, he's based over in Texas, and he actually does brain scans on people. Right? And he puts people through, it's an MRI machine. He puts them through this brain scan, and then he will ask them questions about legacies. So often these people are pledgers, and he will ask them questions about what motivated you. And then what he will do, he will watch a graph to see these emotions going up and down. Yeah? And so as part of that, he did a longitudinal study. And what he found, this was with 8,000 households for a long period of time, is that legacy pledgers who include a charity in their will, so the first time they include, say, for example, a supporter comes along and puts you in their will, their annual giving in lifetime will go up by 77%. Now, this baffled me, because this then just revolutionized how we saw pledges. So what I've seen a lot in the sector is that once a supporter says, "Oh, you're in my will," the charity steps away. And that is the worst thing you can do, because having spoken to hundreds and hundreds of pledges over the years, to them, they're just getting started. Yeah. So think of it as a relationship. Imagine you go on a first date with somebody. You're not going to ask for that person for hand in marriage, are you? You're going to take time to get to know them. So translate that to lottery. If somebody gives their first gift, you're not going to ask strictly for a legacy there and then. It's about relationship building over that period of time. Now, when you ask for that person for their hand in marriage and they say yes, that's the equivalent of a legacy pledge. Right? Now, once you're married, you don't then forget about the person, do you? You don't say, "Oh, you know, so I'll just go off and do my own thing." Actually, some people do that, but it's not highly recommended, is it? So for that marriage to work, there has to be that cherish. You have to commit, you have to trust, you have to give and take, right? So it's that, it's the same relationships in life that translate to fundraising. So when a pledger says you're in my will and a charity steps away, the pledger goes, oh, so you don't care about me. Yeah. And that's when they start looking elsewhere and they put other charities in their will. Yeah. Excuse me. So that's super important to remember. So as I mentioned, it was a study done with 8,000 households. And what is absolutely mind-boggling is that this increase of 77% carried on for 8 years after that pledge. And that's the link to the survey. Has anybody got any questions about that? Because I found this astonishing.
Nothing as yet. I think we are
Nothing as
still
yet.
astonished. Yeah.
Stop astonished. Good. So yeah, this is like super interesting. So if you've got legacy fundraisers at your charity, this is definitely worth sharing with them and say, dropping legacy pledges from any program. Yeah, so this might surprise them. Okay. So I wanted to really uncover what is the possible opportunity within your organization when we're looking at lottery players. So let's look at 10 lottery players. And let's say 5,000 of those are long-term players. Yeah, you're recruiting all the time. So naturally, you're going to have some older ones and younger ones in terms of longevity of giving. Now, out of those 5,000, you'll probably identify 1,000 that are super highly engaged supporters. They're probably giving a little bit over, for example, the gift, or they're responding to everything. Yeah. Those are your legacy prospects. In case you're wondering where to start, those are the ones. Now, I don't really like to discriminate, but if it comes down to time and resource, that's how you find out who they are. And those legacy prospects then become your legacy donors. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so we're going to have an open chat now. So I'd like you to imagine, sorry, this is very far in the future for all of us, I know. Imagine you're a lottery player and you're on a pension, okay? And it's getting further and further away now, isn't it, the old pension? So imagine you've been supporting the hospice for 15 years, yeah? Quite a while now. You'd like to do more financially. How many of us have heard that with supporters? They give a donation and they'll say, I wish I could give you more. No? But nobody has ever mentioned gifts in wills to them. Yeah? So this is you. You want to give more. You want more options, but no one's ever mentioned gifts in wills to you. How does that make you feel? Pop it in the chat if you want to speak out. Now, I heard that you're a really chatty crowd. So
I did sell you. I sold you all. I said really open group.
Sold to me.
I think if I could see a lot of other charities, especially like the large charities, kind of talking about legacies more, I think I'd be quite surprised that the local charity that I had a really good relationship with wasn't mentioning it.
Sorry, are you saying that a lot of the large charities that you know are not talking about legacies?
No, sorry, I was saying if I was the lottery player, I would be, and I could see like other charities and like especially bigger charities talking about it, I'd be really surprised that the charity, like the smaller charity that I had a really good relationship
yes.
with, wasn't then talking to me about it.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think I would think that either you didn't have an opportunity to give to that charity, that charity didn't offer that. So potentially I'd look at a charity that did, because I don't think you'd ever go looking yourself. It kind of needs to be presented to you. So I just think, well, that charity doesn't offer that service.
Or maybe they don't need the money. They're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of responses in the chat as well. Karen says she'd be disappointed that it's never been mentioned to her. Julie said she'd be frustrated that she can't do more and expect the charity to advise her.
Yeah. Now I'm very donor centered. I think it helps because I'm a legacy pledger as well. My whole estate is going to charities, which I've said publicly on the podcast. So my will never be disputed, which is another bonus as well. But I always think from a donor perspective, and I want choice. Yeah. So I always think that we shouldn't be directing supporters how they should give. They should decide. And what has happened in the sector is that we've gone for the things that feel easy. I'm not saying lottery is easy because we want that money now. But what's super interesting is charities that have invested in a legacy program historically don't have to live hand to mouth now. Yeah. And we found this during that horrific time, 5-6 years ago, that many charities unfortunately had to close their doors. But those charities that had invested in a legacy program were able to sustain themselves and continue to deliver services. So it always feels like something to do on the to-do list. And the reality is that there's no better time to start than now, because your successor in 10, 15 years' time, maybe you want to be in the same charity for that period of time, will absolutely thank you. Just how you would thank your predecessor if they had invested in the program. So what's happened in the sector is that we've gone for ways that people can support now, and legacies has almost become a bit of a taboo, dirty word that's added on as a income stream, rather than laying all the cards on the table to the donor and saying, did you know you could support through the lottery? Did you know you could run a marathon? Even if you're 75, that's no problem at all. Or did you want to support through in memory? And legacies being one of those options. So it's about putting all the cards on the table and going, which one works for you? Yeah. And what's super interesting about lottery payers is that eventually they will probably stop giving because their pension will not increase. It will stay the same, but the cost of the living will keep going up. But they will still want to support the organisation. And how can they do that? So in legacies, we talk about people who are older, who may be cash poor but set rich. Yeah. So they may not have the money now, but they'll have it to death. That makes sense. Thank you for doing that. Much appreciated. Okay. So one of the mistakes that I see is that we ask before we make people aware. So I see this so much. Organizations jump into, please leave us a gift in your will. Well, that's compelling, isn't it? Someone's definitely going to run out and change their will hearing that. Yeah. But what we know is that people need reassurance. They need social proof, which is why social media works so well. Unfortunately, humans, we are sheep. We like to do what other people are doing. Nobody wants to be the first. This is why things like this work, this messaging. Many of our lottery players want to support, sorry about the typo there, want to support the hospice beyond their lifetime. Yeah. So what this says is that there's another way of giving. Other people do this, and you don't have to do it now. It's just raising awareness. There's no asking there. Yeah? Just awareness. Okay. So here's some examples, just to lean into that a little bit. Your lottery gift helps families today. That's really reassuring, isn't it? People want to know they're making a difference. A gift in your will could help families in years to come. That's lovely, isn't it? In a winner letter, for example, many of our lottery supporters choose to support the hospice through a gift in their will. Again, it's just reinforcing that messaging. They're not the first. Many people do it. 1 in 4 families were supported thanks to gifts and wills left by supporters in their will. Yeah. And I think in the hospice sector, it's so beautiful because you can absolutely say these number of people and families, patients, children were helped thanks to gifts and wills. Yeah, and I think it's a beautiful message. It works exceptionally well. So some ideas for channels promotion, yeah, at recruitment. And so I don't think there's a perfect time to mention legacies, actually. Like I said, it's about giving supporters choice. You may not necessarily ask straight away, but you can certainly raise awareness. So when you're recruiting a donor, it could be as part of a pack, it could be a lovely story about another lottery player that has decided to include a gift in their will. It could just be a gentle messaging. 1 in 4 of our families is supported thanks to gifts and wills. No ask, just raising awareness. If you have a welcome pack, there's an opportunity to pop something in there as well. Newsletters, I'm a fan of doing email and postal. As we know, some prefer one or the other. And you want to capture people, obviously, where you don't have email addresses, and send people through the post. And that works for survey as well. I love surveys, love a survey. You can ask so many questions. And what we know about lottery players is they also love surveys, don't they? Because they like to tick boxes. Websites, obviously, an obvious place, even at events, telephone, which I'm going to talk into a little bit more detail, and social media. So basically, there is no channel off limits when it comes to legacy promotion. Any thoughts on that? No, we're going to do a little active. Sorry.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
Phoebe.
I'm so sorry. I was just going to say, we've always been really hesitant to kind of introduce legacy too early on. It always scares us a little bit. Have you had experience of introducing it from more of like the awareness point of view as early as recruitment, and has it ever had kind of backlash? I think because we're a hospice, I think we're probably a bit too overcautious about things like that, to be honest. And
that's natural. That's natural.
Yeah.
So because I get brought in when these programs are already established. If I was brought in at the beginning, then I would say, from the moment that the supporter comes on board, we want to give them options, don't we? So it might be that they sign up to your newsletter and you always have a legacy story in there. Yeah?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be something directly to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think as part of a welcome pack, it's lovely to include a nice newsletter because it gives a more holistic view of what happens at the hospice, where money goes, different ways that people can support. Yeah. Because the other thing is as well, your supporters have their own networks, don't they? So they'll have perhaps grandchildren who might be interested in doing a challenge. So why not include details about challenge events? Yeah. And as we know, there's that personal relationship. And this is where in memory, I think there's so much more potential within memory. I mean, it would be amazing to do another session just on in memory, because that is also a nice way of introducing a legacy message, but as a secondary message, because many people leave legacies in memory of a loved one as well. Now, you've probably come across that with your hospice. That probably isn't news to you. So I think it's more about how you do it rather than not doing it. Yeah? But you have to do what feels comfortable. I never want you to feel icky about it. It has to be, okay, we'll be super confident about this, because the ickiness sort of transfers onto the program and the supporter. So if you're including a newsletter, it's got a legacy story and that feels comfortable, do that.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you so much. Sorry for jumping in.
No, please do. Please do. Well, we're going to do a little activity now. So, maybe you could spend a couple of minutes thinking about this. Which channels are you already using for your legacy program? So, thinking about these, and you might have others actually, so that would be really good to hear about and learn about as well. So what are the channels that you're already using? And which channels do you have possibly access to that you aren't using? Yeah. And this is a potential to go, okay, these are the current channels that we're using, and where could we put a legacy message? And what potentially could we be using? Yeah. So if, for example, you're not doing a survey with your lottery players, is that an opportunity to maybe ask them questions around their giving? Question could be, would you be interested in finding out different ways of supporting the hospice? And you could just have TikTok options. So it could be in memory. Obviously, there's going to be gifts in wills in there. Gifts in wills, challenge events, corporate fundraising. Yeah. Doing a coffee morning. So if I just give you a few minutes to do that, and then we'll come together, and then any feedback be good, and we can thrash out anything that's come up where you're thinking, shall I do that? If I can see the tops of your heads, it's a good sign. I go back to this slide that might help. Judy, do you mind putting whoever that is on mute for me? Thank you.
Let's have a look.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody want to share?
We have had some responses in the chat.
Okay, great.
So your friend Helen Prince.
Hi, Helen. We discovered it's not. Sorry, I don't want to say it's not the Helen Prince. It's another the Helen Prince. But
So Helen says that they use newsletter, social media, and postal. Gloria similarly, newsletter, direct mail campaigns, socials. Socials are quite popular. Amanda again, socials, post, telephone. Julie, interesting one. They do thanking events, and they want to talk about gifting wills for lottery upgrade campaigns by phone later this month. Deborah, newsletter. Eleanor, newsletter and website. So quite a variation, but a few, like website and socials in particular, seem to be something that lots of people are using.
nice. Okay. As I mentioned, I love a survey, so I'm going to give you some possible survey questions for legacies. Have you already included the hospice in your will? It's so obvious, isn't it? They'll either say yes or no, won't they? Two possible answers. Would you like to know how you can help even more families in the future? So this will be getting people that are interested in inquiring. It will tell you where your supporters are at. Yeah. Would you consider including a gift in your will too? Yeah? So it's just a different way of asking. Obviously, add your hospice name in there. So free will messages. Now, we know that lottery players love a freebie. So I think the free will, if you have a free will service, it's perfect to offer to your players. Naturally, it comes with a caveat. Make sure that they have received legacy messaging in advance. You don't want them all taking up the free will service and not leaving any gifts. So, as one of our valued lottery supporters, we'd like to offer you our free will writing service. Yeah, totally fine to do that. And what we know is that this will increase engagement. It creates conversations because it will get people thinking, oh, I've already got a will, or I need to update my will, or when I next update my will, I know this charity actively is looking for legacies, a gift in my will. So I will consider that. Yeah. And it's a nice exchange, isn't it? Yeah. They get something, you get something, hopefully something quite big. Telemarketing, I feel this needs a slide on its own. Yeah. Now, I'm a huge fan of doing a legacy telephone campaigns. Again, it comes with a caveat. You must make sure your supporters are hearing from you via telephone for other reasons. You must never just go in and do a legacy campaign if they've never spoken to them on the phone, because they'll go, huh? You're ringing me. You can imagine. I always think about, how would it make you feel? Weird, right? So I love that you were saying that thank you events, and somebody said something about thank you calls. So use the telephone for doing your thank you calls, doing your welcome, doing upgrades. The more you use the telephone, it becomes a natural thing. That picking up the phone these days just seems to have just died a death. It's so rare for someone to pick up the phone. And like post has almost died as well, hasn't it? So you can imagine supporters are just not getting many phone calls now, because a lot of phones now have this screening, don't they? Where they'll say, and even with the new iPhones now, it will do a caller ID, won't it? Where it will say, do you want to take this call? And this person is the holding area. Yeah? So there's less noise on the phone. And my experience of doing telemarketing campaigns, otherwise I wouldn't do it if it generated complaints, is that supporters love it. They just so appreciate the fact that a charity has taken the time to ring them. I get this so much, saying, it's such a personal touch. Thank you for calling. Mm-hmm. And just think about it when you've supported your own organisations. I wish the charities that I supported rang me. They don't. I'd love to have a chat with them and talk about my experience. And I volunteer for an organisation. They don't ring me either, which I always find a bit bizarre. So yeah, I was thinking, if somebody just rang me, even just to say, I don't need thank you, but if they rang me to say thank you, that would make me feel super special. Unless you get me to volunteer more, because I've only got so many hours. Yeah. So just think about how these things would make you feel and just transferring that. So telephone after face-to-face is the most effective way to generate legacy inquiries. Fact. Yeah. So face-to-face will always be the king and queen, I want to say, of legacy fundraising, and probably all fundraising really. But we know it's difficult to get people in a room. And often the supporters that we want to get in a room have mobility issues. Yeah. Or they just have fatigue, because when I was in-house, there were so many charities doing events, and I think supporters have just, they've had it with events now. And these are the things that I think make telephone so effective. Super personal, is only to that person. Yeah. It's completely trusted because the supporter has given you their number. It's not like back in my day where you could look at phone numbers. I know the horror. But now the supporter has to give you their phone number for you to ring them. There's a trust there automatically. And people are pretty cagey about their phone numbers. Phones, aren't they? Yeah. Email has basically superseded post. The people give their email address the way they give their postal address. But telephone is super still personal. It's interactive because you can actually have a conversation with people. And it allows the supporter to ask questions and allows you to ask questions. It's like having a conversation. That's amazing, isn't it? Concept. So some example telemarketing wording, you can think, what on earth would we say on the phone? Naturally would build up to this question, but this is just one of the ways that we introduce legacies on a call. So many of our long-term lottery supporters choose to support the hospice through a gift in their will. After taking care of loved ones, is that something you might consider in the future? Yeah. Notice what we're doing there. We're doing social proof. Other people do it. We're saying how. We're mentioning the hospice. And we're mentioning a very key thing with legacies after taking care of loved ones. We're not trying to get 100% of the estate. Yeah. And we're recognizing what's important to that supporter. It's naturally going to be their loved ones. Yeah. And you can use family, friends, but I find loved ones covers everybody in that scenario. And it's less direct because we're not asking them now. We're saying, is it something they might consider? So we're not actually asking for a decision now, if you think about it. We're asking them to consider in the future. So that's one of the things that we say on a telemarketing call. We're not actually asking for a decision now. Is this something you might consider in the future? We're just trying to understand if this is something of interest. We naturally only want to share information about ways of giving that are important to you and that would be useful to you. If this is of interest, we'll make sure that we don't contact you about this again. Yeah. So it becomes a bit of a market research rather than, have you done it? Will you do it? Yeah. And I like this because I just think it's super simple, it's friendly, and it's not pressured out. Any thoughts?
There's
Nope.
nothing in the chat as yet, just opening up. I think it's fascinating because a lot of us probably use telephone anyway to promote our lotteries. So
Nice.
we're used to making the phone calls, if not overseeing the phone calls that our teams are making. And
Nice.
just the structure of that opening sentence is, it sounds daft because it's so simple, but something that perhaps we've not considered. And it,
Yeah.
you know, hopefully everybody takes this forward to talk about gifts and wills. But if not, I think we can take something away from that for our lottery campaigns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope so. So what are you looking at when you're looking at measurement? We know that we love numbers in the sector, don't we? So in terms of awareness, we're looking for legacy inquirers. So people that are raising their hand and saying, oh, it's something they'll consider in the future. Yeah, so they just become like legacy inquiries in the simplest terms. Now, some charities like to use intender as well, but I actually am not a fan of intender because I intend to do a lot of things in my life. It doesn't mean I'm going to do them. So I just think you've either interested or you've done it. There's no real middle ground for me. Yeah. So, and also I think it simplifies the process, as in you have inquirers, and then what you're trying to do is always convert those people into legacy pledges. Now, what we need to remember about this is not to get fixated on year one, we've got 500 legacy inquirers. In year two, we're going to convert half of them. It doesn't work like that. Supporters go at their own pace. It could be years before they convert into legacy pledges. And sometimes they'll convert into legacy pledges and won't even tell you. Now, you'll also have people where you raise awareness and they'll say, oh, I'm not interested. But those people will also often go on to leave legacies to your organization. Don't ask me why that happens. Ask me why that happens. So there is a campaign that I do with some charities where people that have said no to gifts in wills 3+ years ago, we actually call those people and they convert into legacy inquirers and pledges. It's a mystery. It's a mystery, I know. I haven't got all the answers on these slides, I'm afraid. So long-term value. But this is the thing that I was talking about with Russell James in the guide of the brain scans. Now, if these lottery players are going on to support you longer, when you look at your average of how long people support you, that's a win, isn't it? If you think about it. Yeah. And they should, really, because if they're legacy pledger, based on that research, that longitudinal study, we know that people will continue to give. Yeah. And that obviously results in retention as lottery players. Yeah, that's super exciting. Okay. So I put in here just a case study. This is very typical of telemarketing, to be honest, some stats. So we had 3,000 legacy prospects in a file. Yeah. We, out of that, had 638 conversations, but we didn't ring everybody. Yeah. So we didn't ring everybody because there's budget restraints and you get so far in the file and you literally just end up having callers just sitting there and you've just got voicemails, etc. So at some point you just go, okay, the file's done. So we worked the file to like 55% penetration and we had 210 inquirers from those 638 conversations. That's 57% conversion. So can you see why I say now this is the highest conversion when it comes to legacies? Yeah. And we had 18 pledges. So these are people that I had already pledged. They didn't pledge on the phone. So that's not a pledge because they obviously can't write their will while they're on the phone. So these people were already pledges, but they hadn't told the charity. So what that tells me is that when a supporter reveals on a call that they have included charity, there's trust there. They want you to know, because we also know that we ring people who say that they'll think about it or haven't done it, but they have. So there's a lack of trust, and also people want to be able to change their minds, which is understandable. But there is a trust there with these 18 people, and that's a 2.8% conversion out of those 638 conversations, and that's phenomenal. So what did that look like in terms of income? So this charity has an average legacy value of 30,000. You'll find that quite typical across your own organizations. And it might be actually more for adult hospices. So that resulted in 2.1 million in legacy income. Yeah. Right. Just a final workshop exercise. So I'd like you to think about your audience. So you've got your lottery players, but are there some segments within that you think actually they would be really interesting to test this idea with? I believe in testing. Don't go out to everybody, because if you realize that you should have done something, you want to do it differently, you've gone out to everybody and it may not have given the results that you wanted. So I always say test with a small cohort, see how that performs, then wider. Yeah. So there might be a particular cohort or segment that you think, okay, that's great. Think about the channel. So we've already talked about channels that you could go to with some legacy messaging. Think about the messages and the timing. So you raised a very valid point. Should we do it at recruitment Should we do it when someone's been giving a year? Should we do it on someone's anniversary? So you've heard my view, do it from first gift. They may not necessarily be the people that you've identified in terms of your key audience. Yeah. Oh, that's the slide there. You wanted to spend a couple of minutes just thinking about that. And then if anybody wants to share, always good as to hear. Do you want a bit longer? Because we're doing quite good for time. Yeah, I'll give you 5 minutes. Minute. Okay, does anybody want to share?
Got a very quiet group, haven't we? No hands up at the moment.
No.
No. No hands up.
Mine's very basic, but I don't mind sharing a bit if it would.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I think so. I've decided to look at our newer lottery players, because that's something that we've never done before. We have tried to communicate with our more like existing lottery players in the past, about legacy. So I've focused on the newer lottery players, across like a bit of a combination of channels. So I really liked your idea about introducing a newsletter as part of the welcome pack that's got some legacy messaging in there. We do send a welcome pack, but it is solely kind of focused on lottery and with like a case study and things. We don't really have anything else in there. It's more of like a hospice overview and then how their lottery donation supports. So I really like the idea of that. So I thought we could introduce something like that with the legacy messaging in there, and then across like obviously the different channels, we normally drip feed some legacy information on in things like our e-news and on social media and things anyway. So I was thinking we could maybe ramp that up a little bit, target it a little bit more. And then I also really liked your idea about the free wills option. So we do have a free wills scheme that just kind of sits in the background. We don't do a massive amount of promotion around it. So I like the idea of bringing that in. I'm just not 100% sure on when would be like an okay time to bring that in, maybe like 12 months-ish after sign up. But I don't know if there'd be a bit of internal nervousness about bringing it up that early.
Okay.
So yeah, that is, like I said, very basic, but definitely got me thinking. So thank you.
So I know that you have to bring the rest of the organization with you whenever you come up with an idea. And it'd be great if we had all these ideas and could just execute them ourselves and we didn't have to consult with anybody. So I totally get that. Like I said, there's no perfect time. So I just think maybe test. And one of the things you could say to your colleagues is that if we test this with a smaller group, let's see what happens. Yeah. So if you want to test with just raising awareness but have a link where people could find out more. If people go on to the Gifts and Wills page or they take up the free will service and they start leaving legacies, you're going to be quite a star, aren't you? And that moment. So I think it's just about taking that chance. And it's one of these things with anything, unless you try, you don't know. Yeah. So there's not a perfect moment. There are better moments, as in you want the engagement with people. You want them to know what you're about. So the timing of your free will service matters more than your legacy messaging, more than anything else. So I would always be feeding legacy messages in first and then bring in the free will service. So back in my day, I never thought I'd ever say that, you know, all the time now. So back in my day, the free will service. Oh, we've got someone. Judy, do you mind popping
Yeah,
on mute for me? Thank you.
Yeah.
So back in my day, the free will service was always a conversion tool. It wasn't something that was on the website. General public didn't know about it. So you'd have your legacy inquirers, and to help them move them along a little bit, you'd say, oh, we have this free will service. And it was only used for that. So you can absolutely see where the impact was. Now, I appreciate that times are changing. So it's absolutely wonderful to be able to offer it as a service to people like lottery players who are likely to be cash poor. So the expense of a will can be quite a lot for people, depending on where they are geographically. Yes, it can be anything like £150 up to like 300, and even more for like mirror wills, and people have complex estates and need more time with solicitors. So being able to offer that service is really of value. So in some ways, the free will sort of devalues it. And this is why you almost need to bring back what the value is. So I would talk about the free will service as in it would bring peace of mind. The actual financial value of a will. So you'll have that information from your free will provider as to geography wise, if you're in the south, it's going to cost more than if you're in the north of the country. So having that saying this free will is worth this. And then there's that trust, as in there's only reputable solicitors. If it's an in-person solicitor service, there's only reputable solicitors as part of that. So I think that helps to create that engagement as well. So it feels as if they're really getting something of super value rather than it be free. But there's no other way to talk about the free will service because you have to put the free in it. But I almost want us to think about more of the value of offering that rather than the free element of it. Okay.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, so look at this, nice and easy. I've got you a 90-day action plan. So if you got stuck doing that exercise, there's some things to consider. So you could add a legacy message to a newsletter. Yeah. You could plan a survey, as I've mentioned. You could explore telemarketing. Like I've said, always make sure your supporters are receiving a call in some ways. You may not have the capacity to do it in-house. If you have, amazing. Otherwise, there's obviously telemarketing partners. You can ask me. I work with an agency called QTS. Highly recommend them if you want them for your other aspects of telephone calling. Promote your free will service. Source a legacy case study. It's great if you have legacy stories of people that have included a gift in their will, but for this audience, what people do when they're being asked to do something, especially something like this that requires some thought on their part, they ask themselves a question and go, am I the sort of person that includes a charity in a will? Yeah. Now, helping to see another person that plays the lottery that has done that helps them to identify. It's almost being part of a tribe. Yeah. So we still live tribally, which is why social media works so well. We're looking for people who are like us. Yeah. So this is very much the same in this regard. And start measuring conversions. Yeah. You're not going to see the fruits of your labor naturally within weeks, take months. But if you really start to track who's receiving legacy messages, who's inquiring, who's pledging, yeah, who's giving more. So interesting, we find this on the back of telephone campaigns, legacies. People will go onto the website and make a donation. Think, well, we didn't ask you to do that. But they'll go off and do that because they feel more emotionally invested. Yeah? They want to do more. Any thoughts on that?
Nope.
No? I'm expecting loads of questions to start flooding in when I come onto my last slide. That's what's going to happen. You're all saving it up, aren't you? Yeah, so I just have some final thoughts because I have left significant time for questions because I was told you were a chatty lot and I wanted to make sure that you had the time to talk through anything that you brought to the session. Still time to do that. So just final thoughts from me. The most valuable lottery player isn't necessarily the one who buys the most tickets. Yeah. Because the most valuable lottery player I'm talking about in terms of money is going to be the person that leaves you a legacy in terms of financials. Yeah. Legacy to your charity creates a stronger relationships today and sustainable income tomorrow. I think that's evident from the research. Yeah. Okay. Just the last one. I do seem to like QR codes, don't I? So there's, if you want to have a look at my website, I have a podcast, Legacy Fundraising Chat, and I've just released 105th episode. Yes, I've been busy the last 4 years on that. That's my email address if you have any questions. And if you want to be on a VIP list, I have an e-newsletter that goes out once a month. You won't get spammed with anything else, I assure you. And I share a monthly tip in there, and anything that has come up that I'm working on, and yeah, just release of new podcast episodes. And also, if there's any events in the sector that I think are useful for people to go along to, I will share those. I don't run any affiliate program with anybody. I don't get paid for sharing anything like that. It's just not in my nature doing things like that. So I share because I think it's useful for yourselves. Yeah.
Has anybody got any questions for Sunita or for the group? Because we talk quite openly in our networking session. So has anybody got any questions for Sunita or for each other? I think certainly my notepad's very busy after that session. I spoke to Sunita last week and confessed we don't do very much in terms of tying our lottery players with legacies. And we've never looked into if there's an existing relationship there. So certainly lots for me to go away and think about and speak to our fundraising team about to see if we can do some collaborative work in there. So Cheryl's asked if the slides in the video will be shared. Yes,
Yeah.
We've recorded the session. Yeah, so you'll be able to watch that back. Thanks, Cheryl. Has anybody else got any questions? Pop your hand up, shout out, whatever suits.
Yeah.
I don't have a question as such, but I just wanted to say, like, I've made loads of notes and I work opposite my legacy manager. So it's given me loads of things to go away and have a conversations about how we can do. Like, we do try and do quite a bit together because we are aware of the link. But yeah, it's given me some great ideas to go back and see how we can build on that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Emma.
That's great. Thanks, Emma. I think we're probably all quite similar now. We're all itching to go and have them conversations.
You're going to find your legacy manager, aren't you? You're going to be telling them how they should a legacy program. Love it.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Sunita's email address is on the screen, so I'm sure if you want to take a note of that, or I'll check it back later on. I'm sure Sunita won't mind, because I am the first to admit I walk away from any meeting or training, and as soon as it's finished, that's when the questions come to me. So it's always helpful to have that contact. We also will keep the chat open, so please keep using the chat as we do with any session. It's there. But a massive thank you to Sunita. That's a really, really interesting session, and not something I'm aware of that we've done before with the HLA. I know we've had people share their own experience at HLA meetings and conferences, but to have somebody come in and speak to us like this is really, really great. So thank you so much for that. And if it's okay with you, Sunita, another thing we like to do at the end of a session is, as everyone leaves, we tend to stay on to see if anybody's got a more private question that they wanted to ask.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to stay. Yeah. I would like to thank Vicky McKellar from Clare House Children's Hospice for inviting me to speak. Really appreciate giving me this airtime. And thank you all for attending. It's really helpful to hear lots of different perspectives and see so many of you. It's brilliant.
Thank you, Sunita. It's great. It's great as a good, if you're already doing some of this, it's great as a great refresh. And if you're brand new to it, it just gives you one or two things to try. So thank you so much.
So thank you, everyone. You're free to leave, but like I say, if you want to stay on and ask Sunita any questions that you want to, please stay on. We will ask Sunita to share the slides, and then we'll get them uploaded to the resources section of the website, and the recording will be available to you as well as soon as I hit stop recording, which I'll do in a second. So thank you everybody for joining. Really appreciate you taking the time. Appreciate you're all very busy. So great to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.